and watch me educate. Yeah, we been could've started, but it's never late. Do it for my kids, yeah, let's set it straight. Do it for your kids, gotta set it straight. It's time to regulate. We need change now. We need solo, we need...
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast, and we've got a really special guest for you today. Man, he's actually a really good friend of mine. We've known each other for years. Elijah Desmond, welcome to the studio.
It's a nice place you got here.
Man, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a labor of love over the last couple of years, just trying to get everything built out. So, talk to me. How was your flight?
Flight was good. I slept about 20 minutes in the plane, and
That is suboptimal.
Yep, and that was the longest walk through the airport I think I've ever had. It's way longer than Atlanta.
I remember whenever you first got here, you're like, how big is this place? And I told you there's a train. Did you guys take the train to get to the gates?
We thought we missed the train because the train was so far. We had to walk like 20 minutes to the train before you got onto the train.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how big IAH is. The only one I've been to that's as big is probably Arlington. Okay. But so I always like to start these podcasts off with just a story about who you are, how you got to where you are. Obviously, these podcasts are all about people who've achieved things that maybe people will find inspiring, that may help them to achieve things as well. And man, to say that yours was an uphill battle through tough terrain would be, I think, an understatement. So I want you to start off, take me back to your childhood, and I want you to tell me what early life was really like before people knew your name.
Yes, so I think I can go back to probably around 8 years old where my parents got divorced. I think that childhood amnesia stops at around 4 years old. So, early memories of my parents being together. And towards the end, memories of them breaking up and divorcing. And so they divorced when I was about eight years old. And I got, 4 sets of family members, basically. So a lot of people think, if a child goes through divorce, it's the end of the world, it's going to mess them up. And I think it didn't mess me up at all. I had four sets of families that loved me, completely different, backgrounds with all of them. I had start with my mom's side. My mom's side, and so we'll talk about Christmas time. For my mom's side, I would get maybe some shoes, some K-Swiss shoes, right? Or I would call that the regular gifts. Then I would go to my stepdad's side, and I would get like a new horse, right? So
That's a vast difference.
Vast difference. Then I would go to my dad's side, and I would get maybe a Christmas card with $20 from, I'll never forget my grandma, and that $20 really felt like it was about $1,000 because that's all she could give, but I felt it. And then my dad would get me shoes and clothes and whatnot. Then I would go to my stepmom's side, and I don't remember too much getting any gifts. That was the ghetto. My mom remarried a wealthy white man from a dairy farming family, and my dad remarried a black lady that was from the hood, from the projects. Now, even though there was all those different types of diverse situations that were different, I was still loved equally from all of them, just in a different way. So you take it back to the very beginning. That's what I remember the most is literally so many changes happening in the day to day. And I just use Christmas as an example, but I went to my mom's I went to my dad's every other weekend and 2 weeks in the summer, and maintained a very close relationship, with my mommy and my dad.
It's interesting. I had very similar. We always joke about the fact that every time we talk, there's some similarity that pops up. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget my grandmother got me a bathrobe once, and that was just such a huge purchase for her. And I was more grateful for that than the erector sets or anything else, because she had nothing, but she'd given everything that she could. It's such an interesting thing growing up in or around poverty, really, I think it makes you target different things in life, but it also makes you appreciate everything you have more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually sparked something of what I didn't have. I didn't get to travel. My stepdad was opposed to traveling until he divorced my mom and got remarried. And, my dad didn't travel much at all except for taking me to wrestling tournaments all over Ohio and surrounding states, but there was no vacation. I didn't know what vacation was like until the 8th grade. I went on my very first vacation to Clearwater Beach, Florida, my first plane ride. And they say that, you go trying to fulfill what you didn't have as a kid. I've built a life around traveling, and
I'll go one step further. Where do you live now?
I live in Florida.
And I know for a fact you've been down to Clearwater multiple times.
Yeah,
we've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how those things impact us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm nonstop on a plane. I think I looked at last. I have this app called Flightly, and I just looked this a few days ago, and I've been literally around the world 13.3 times.
That's amazing. So, cut that part out. So, one of the things that we have in common, and we've discussed, in fact, the first time I ever met you, I heard you telling your story, and I got a little pissed because I thought you were telling my story.
Christopher.
Because you were so right. And so I want you to tell that story if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, do that, and then I'll ask you the question.
Okay, so I actually talk about a story about that little boy named Christopher, and Christopher was the kid that was he was in the 2nd grade, and every single time that the special education teacher came to the door, Christopher would get up, walk to the classroom, and have eyes glaring at him, because he's the kid that was going to the special trailer. And he would go to the special trailer specifically to learn how to read and to retain. And Christopher always said he'd never forget the way that trailer door creaked open and closed, slammed behind him every single day. And he'll never forget the eyes that were beaming down at Christopher as Christopher walked out of the classroom. Throughout the years, Christopher joined this club called the Book It Club, and it was done through Pizza Hut. And if he read a certain amount of books, he would be rewarded with some pizza. And Christopher would go to the library, read as many books as he can, and still he could read an entire book out loud, but he couldn't remember anything that he read from that book. And so Christopher realized that if he just told the teachers that he needed help, they would always help Christopher. Christopher changed elementaries from Emerson Elementary to St. Clement's. And when Christopher changed elementaries, Christopher actually got an opportunity to no longer go to the special kids trailer. He wasn't sure the test that he took to get out of it, but he no longer went to the special kids class. But what he realized is that if he wanted to be successful, he would have to learn how to learn different. He would have to learn differently than the other kids. And Christopher never read a book, never comprehended a book that he read, I should say. And he maintained straight A's. And there were certain things that Christopher would look for on the pages of the books as the chapters would read, like bold things, like bold lettered words or things you should know. Anyhow, Christopher ended up testing into college at 15 years old, still not reading a book, and went and graduated from the Ohio State University in 2009. He still didn't read a book. This is 6 years of college. And then in 2018, Christopher actually wrote his first book. And that first book was called Serial Entrepreneur from Startup to Success. And oh, by the way, my name is Elijah Christopher Desmond.
So when did you start going by Elijah instead of Christopher? Or were you always Elijah?
I actually was always Elijah, but I went by a nickname of Bo. I went by the nickname of Bo growing up from my family mostly. Christopher was never my nickname, but when I tell the story from the stage, I talk about Christopher because I didn't want people to know
You
until
gotta
the end.
separate, right? It's building the story. So when did you first learn that you learn differently, and how did dyslexia and ADHD first show up in school?
So I'm not dyslexic, but I do have ADD bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
Are you sure you're not dyslexic or dysphagic? Because if you can't do the comprehension.
I have never been diagnosed. And I have went to was it a psychologist or what is it?
Psychologist.
I went to a psychologist and I was not diagnosed with that. But I was diagnosed with ADD. And
Oh, yeah, because you're not the cool kids before they added the age.
Yes. And so I actually didn't get diagnosed with it, ADD until I was out of college. However, at the end of the semester in college each year, or each semester, about 2 weeks before, I would find a friend who had Adderall. And I would go in with a C average to the last 2 weeks, and I would take Adderall and I would study, and I would always ace the final test. So I graduated with a 3.1 GPA, not the top of my class. However, it was still a 3.1. It wasn't a 2.1 or a 2.0. And the medication, it allowed me to actually concentrate and to absorb and retain the information. It was like I had superpowers. And I only stayed on it for that amount of time until I graduated college and actually was prescribed. So like I was getting Adderall from people that were just friends that had been diagnosed with ADD. So I'd
like to say the statute of limitations has passed on that.
Have you ever seen the movie Limitless? Well, I felt like I was in the movie Limitless whenever I had it. And, great movie. I graduated from Ohio State University as a dental hygienist, and I moved to Hawaii, and that's where I actually was diagnosed. And this is about 9 months after I graduated, and I basically built my entire first business from taking Adderall. Like I built it, and I built it fast. Here's what I didn't like about it. Adderall made me feel like when I was like really happy, I would be overly happy, and it wouldn't even have to be something that really should make you that happy. Like it would be a huge deal. And then when I was upset or low, it would make me low, and it would make me feel bad. And it was like, this is not even that. I would tell myself like, it's the Adderall, because there's no reason I should feel this crappy about this little of a situation. So I stopped taking it after I built my first business. I tried about probably 2 years ago when I started my business that I'm in right now. I went to go study for my Series 7A. And the only way I was going to get through that bad boy is if I took Adderall. So I tried it. And luckily, I have two attorneys that ended up taking it, so I didn't have to in my firm. So
did your teachers label you or limit you early on? And if so, how did that shape your identity?
Oh, man. It's crazy you say that. I had a teacher, and this teacher, by the way, a recording was sent to me, and I can find it easily, of a teacher telling me that they were going to see they were going to see me in 5 years and see where I'm at. In other words, you're not going to amount to anything. And how did I deserve that? Well, I was talking in class. And he said something very negative to me. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I fired back with, "This is why I'm going to college early." And he basically said, I'll see you in 5 years. And I wish he was alive today to show him what I've accomplished and what I've done. But I will never forget that. I also will never forget my guidance counselor, who told me that I was the most ambitious and driven kid that he had ever met in his entire career as the counselor. I actually seen him recently when I did a motivational concert, and I brought him to the stage and gave him an award. That's the first tattoo I ever got at 17 years old, was a tattoo that stood for driven. So I was the most driven kid. So I remember both of those people.
So, how did your early home life teach you about resilience, or dealing with pressure or expectations, or shape the way that you live your life and conduct business?
I think the early home life taught me most about being a chameleon and not necessarily fitting in, because the best way to fit in is be your authentic self. And I had to find that out the hard way, which we can talk about if you'd like. But it taught me to be a chameleon, to be able to work with people that were extremely successful and people that were just starting without making them feel like crap. It taught me that I can change a situation or be in a situation and go to a different environment and adapt to that environment. So that's one thing it taught me. The second thing was hard work. I watched my dad own multiple businesses. He always had so much cash in his pocket, like credit cards didn't exist. And he got money the right way. And he always gave back. He gave back to the entire city of Canton by doing these things called Brick City reunions, where he would basically feed the entire city and have foul shooting contests and hairstylist contests and all kinds of things, just getting the city together without violence. And I watched how hard he worked. And I was raised on a big farm. And in the big farm, you know, I'm baling hay and I don't know if this is R-rated or X, but shoveling shit, right. pig manure and cow. And I was working really hard, sweating on a farm. And I told myself, there is no way that I'm going to do this type of work whenever I grow up. I want to use my brain. I want to be in air conditioning. And the only time I want to sweat is if I'm going to the gym. And so that shaped me. That was the early upbringings.
So I grew up in the summers at my grandparents' farm in Tepetate, Louisiana, which if you ever wonder where that is, there's a little town called Iota being the smallest measurable amount of matter. And people use Iota to give directions to Tepetate. So grew up milking cows, you know, going up in the hayloft and tossing down bales and picking fruit. Yep. And yeah, very similar. So I want you to expound on something for me real quick. You obviously didn't have a one would say standard upbringing. I'm most specifically interested in how you feel that the multicultural, both from a race standpoint and from an economic standpoint, as well as socio-demographic levels, shaped your understanding of people, their motivations, what makes people tick.
Can you repeat that question a little bit differently?
How did growing up around such diverse cultures shape the way that you see people?
Got it. So from Ohio, for the most part, it's black, white, or specifically Mexican. That's what I've seen. And I actually categorize myself as something different. I'm biracial. I'm black and I'm white. And so I felt like I was, everybody talked about the white side, or everybody talked about the black side. And I feel like the mixed kids kind of got left in between.
I think they either went to where they felt like they were part of both communities, or they felt like they were excluded from both.
Yes, and I felt like I was excluded from both. And I would go to the my high school, which I was the only black kid in the all-white high school. There may have been like one or two below or above me, but I was the only black kid. And I definitely felt like the black kid. I would go to my dad's every other weekend where it was all black, and I was the white kid. And so my voice was too high. I talked like a white boy. That's what they would give me a hard time about. Or my clothes. You know, I had Abercrombie and Fitch and Hollister, and I was wearing white boy clothes. So then I would go and try to change, and I would start to wear Tommy Hilfiger and Fubu and Sean John to fit in. And then I actually liked it. So I would go to my high school, it's all white. Now I'm too black. there's this thing that's like a part, you get a part in your hair. I remember, I'll never forget when my dad did my hair. So he had one of his things he had was a beauty salon, and he did some hair, but a part is a line that you put like straight back in your head. And that line is a Black culture thing. And I don't think I've ever seen so many people stare at me when I got that done. It was almost embarrassing. So I was rejected from the white side for being Black. And I was rejected from the Black side from being white. And I constantly tried to fit in. And when I say constant, let's go ahead and define that. From age 12 to about 14, I was confused. I had identity issues because I didn't know I was supposed to be white or Black. I would go to my mom's side, and I'm going to a Catholic church, right? I was raised in a Catholic church. And, you know, you're confessing your sins. And like one of the sins that as a kid, because I was so confused, I was confessing is when I went to my dad's, I would go to the Baptist church where they're hollering and screaming and making people pass out. And I felt like that was a sin. So then I'm gonna go to my mom's side, and I would have to get down on your knees in the you know, on the altar, and you got to say, you know, 100 Hail Marys and 100, you know, whatever the name, but you know, to confess your sins. So I was very confused. And here's the crazy thing. All of a sudden, when I decided, I don't know what clicked, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not white and I'm not Black. I am mixed. I am Elijah. So I'm going to wear what I want. I'm not going to create some sort of ad lib or tone to act like I'm Black or act like I'm going to be me. And as soon as that clicked, all of a sudden I had so many friends. I had like, everybody was trying to hang around me. I was the school athlete. I was the popular kid. And then the worst thing ever happened. I got my athleticism taken from me. And it was like I had to start all over.
So go into that story.
Yeah, so my dad, you know, I just recently cleaned out his house because he passed away. And I got to see all of the trophies and the medals because he kept them all in my room that I never slept in at the house. And I seen a plaque that was first place, 49 pounds. So, I mean, I literally was 4 or 5 years in a singlet, 4 or 5 years old. I would go to states every year. I would be undefeated most years. I had big old long, you get bobbing pins. Back where in Ohio, you get bobbing pins for every time you pin somebody. And I was decorated. I mean, I wrestled all year, all around the year. And my goal, my dream was to go to the Olympics in wrestling and to play football professionally. I got to my freshman year, and I got injured in a football game. I got a stinger, and that stinger sent me into basically made my thumb go numb. So the athletic trainer said that I was not able to go back and play until I got cleared. Well, my mom sent me to the chiropractor, and that chiropractor, he basically said your top vertebrae is fused to your skull, and your sacrum is fused to like the bottom vertebrae. Anyways, they're two fused. I have no disc at the top or the bottom. And he basically sent me off to the family doctor. So I went to the sports doctor. So I went to the sports doctor, Dr. Violet. Dr. Violet said that chiropractor's a quack. Go play. He positioned your neck wrong in the x-ray where your neck was positioned up. You can play. But I'll have you come back for a CAT scan at the end of the season. Go ahead and finish. So I had like 5 more weeks. And I just absolutely, crushed it that season. I'll never forget that season.
Yeah, because you thought it might be your last.
Thought it could be my last. And he goes, you actually, when I got it done, the CAT scan, you actually do have a top vertebrae and bottom vertebrae fused, and you can't play. At that moment, my parents got me multiple second opinions. Only 1 second opinion was covered from the insurance. So I got multiple second opinions, and they all told me no. And that put me into a deep, dark depression. And that was the first. Now, fast forward a few years later, I went to Ohio State University, and my best friend was one of the players, Devin Jordan, who's now a coach at Ohio State University, and he's also the president of Beyond the Game, the nonprofit I volunteer for. anyhow, Devin got me prepared to walk on. So I knew all of the things that some people don't know when walking on. I got in the best shape of my life. And the doctor sat me down because you need 3 days before you need to get clearance from the medical doctor. Doctor sat me down and said, Elijah, I have some bad news to share with you. But I also have good news. I said, oh, wow, I'm able to play football. He goes, you were overdiagnosed. This entire time you could have played. I've seen this a few times. And your neck is actually stronger than most people's neck. And your bottom vertebrae, you're just not as flexible as everybody else. But you were overdiagnosed. And those doctors that overdiagnosed me were just trying to make sure you're safe.
Trying to cover their ass.
Yep. Yep, exactly. But they overdiagnosed you and they just hadn't seen it. That was the worst day of my life. You would have thought it would have been the best. It was the worst day of my life. I went home that day. I'll never forget coming out of the building, driving down the road and going to my house. I stayed in a finished basement. I went into that basement and I didn't come out for 3 days. I missed walk-ons. I was so depressed. I was everything but suicidal. So you can be at the rock bottom and not think about taking your life, but you wake up and you just want to go back to sleep. And you wake up and you're like, I just need to go back to sleep. And you can sleep pretty easily, but when you wake up, you just want to go to bed. And that was the second of the third time that I've ever hit a rock bottom in my entire life. And that's also what I speak to kids about as well. That story. It's one of the stories anyhow.
So we're going to cover a little bit about your charity with children and various other things you do later. So we are going to come back to that.
Yep.
But one question I hadn't planned on asking in this specific portion of the podcast is, what did this teach you, or what lesson do you learn now that's maybe different than the lesson you learned then about self-limiting beliefs as it pertains to this injury? Because you had an injury, you were told you didn't have it, you went out and you kicked ass. And you're told you do have an injury, you didn't play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever you're going to be a walk-on, all of a sudden you're told, oh, well, that wasn't really true. It seems it has a lot to speak to the mental games we play with ourselves that set us up for either success or failure.
Yeah, I think it also taught me to pivot and to bounce back really quick. I've pivoted a lot of times in my career after having about 20 different businesses. I've pivoted so many times. So it taught me to pivot. It also taught me to like black out the bad stuff and just focus on like the good and not the bad. It taught me to not like be around negative energy, be around positive energy, because it really fed my soul. But when somebody does tell me no, that I can't do something, I just don't believe it. There's a yes around the corner. So I'm extremely motivated. And could that have been a reason behind it? Possibly. It possibly could. But when somebody tells me no, like those doctors, look, I went and got multiple second opinions and I just didn't talk to the right person. So I feel like, well,
you did get a yes.
I did get a yes. And it wasn't too late, actually.
But which one did you listen to?
I
Because whenever you got all the second opinions, you got a bunch of no's and a yes.
I listened to the no.
So what does that tell you about that portion of your life and how you were different?
Oh, man. Well, I would like if that happened today, if it fast forwarded to today, I would have been able to take the yes and go run with it. But it happened then, and maybe I hadn't built up that backbone yet or that strength, and I let things get to me too easy. Because you would have thought that I would have cheered and been so happy and went and tried out, but I didn't. I would have in hindsight, but the thing is I would have, but I wouldn't be who I was today if I went and played sports. Like I don't think that I think I would be in an entire different life that I'm in now.
Yeah, there's nothing I think that doesn't lead us forward, and if you're happy with where you are, then everything led you forward to the right place, right?
Right. Yep.
So at what point in your life did you not just realize that your brain works differently, but that it was actually a superpower? And I know people say that a lot to make people feel better about themselves, but I honestly think that my things I've got going on, which is very similar to yours. For those of you who don't know, I have Tourette syndrome, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and attention deficit disorder. And like I said, we're the cool kids who got ADD instead of ADHD because we're old. But I was told I would never read or write well enough to go to college. I was also told I couldn't do math. I'm a whiz at math. I just didn't have the right teacher.
Right.
So it is a superpower if you use it right. So when did yours become a superpower and not an albatross?
Yeah, I would say my superpower, I feel like, really came to light around 2015 or 16, when I realized that things were pretty easy and that I could have this like really creative mind and the stuff actually works. And then like the next level of that is that I got this huge following in dentistry. And because of the following, because of the way that my mind worked, it has allowed me to do so many things. So I kind of got like a lot of confidence. And then the more that I did, the more businesses I created, the more people that I helped, the more momentum that I had gained. And it was the point of where I felt like I could do anything. Like I could do anything. And it led me to, at one point, pre-pandemic, having 14 different revenue streams and businesses. And many people who have been down the road that I hadn't been had constantly told me, like, Elijah, you need to read the book, The One Thing. Like, you should do less. And in my mind, like, I can do everything. So like,
I was one of those people.
I was too. I mean, look, I wrote the book Serial Entrepreneur from Startup to Success, because by then I had started like 14 different businesses. This is 18. And now I only have 2. And if I was to tell my younger self like anything, it would be like focus. But I couldn't focus because there's just much opportunity everywhere. But I do feel like it was all for a reason, because I did all of those things to end up where I'm at. I feel like failing and having to close down businesses, I felt like that taught me so much. And then, I've exited 7 times now. I've had 7 different successful exits. But I also had like 7 or 8 failures. And so, I feel like right now I'm 38, and I know that there's still more growth for me, but I've never been in a better position as it relates to my mind, because I know my abilities. I have an ability to delegate, which is something that some people don't do. I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I've niched down. And it's allowed me to use my brain in the most powerful way. And I can see things that most people can't, and I can see it really clear. And what do I mean by that? Like, let's say if somebody has a gift, like Chris, say, we're hanging out, for a few days. I'm like, Chris, this is really obvious to me, and you just don't see it. So I can see things and gifts that people have, and I can also connect the dots. Like, this person should be talking to this person. And so I've really honed in on my gifts of vision and creativity, and I've hired for everything else. So I don't have to focus or try really hard to do things that I'm not like that good at. And I have ADD, but I use the perks of ADD and the genius of the ADD. And I've set things in my life and people in my life so the ADD doesn't affect me in a negative way. I have people that are very organized. I have people that I write an idea down or I shoot a message to, and they go and they implement it, because I have the best team. And so I live a very organized life. All of my crazy ideas, I'm able to silence the ones that don't make sense, either take too long or they're too risky. And I've learned to hone in on the ones that make a lot of sense and I can implement. Like, I am an implementer. If I say I'm going to do something, it's happening. And that's something that I feel some people don't have that ability to do.
We had a conversation over lunch about implementation. It really is the key to success. But you said something there that really made me think about one of my philosophies in life made me kind of codify it as we were sitting here talking. And it's actually kind of a grocery store analogy, right? You go to the grocery store and you see a shelf full of cereal boxes, right? And there's this one spot where it's just empty. There's like one box left. There's two ways of thinking about it, right? It's either the best fucking cereal on the face of the earth and they can't keep the shit stocked, or it's so damn bad they don't even pay attention to that section. They're just hoping to hell someone buys that last box, right? And ideas are like that. And I think that most people give themselves too little credit. They have an idea, and you know the old trope goes: if you have an idea and no one's ever done it, it's probably because it's a bad idea. You just don't know it's failed. But the truth of the matter is that most people fear failure so much that they never try anything, or they have ideas and they think ideas are worth money.
Mm-hmm.
But ideas aren't worth money. Implementation is worth money. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, you know, first off, the implementation is kind of like, you know, you talk to people like my friend Neo Positivity. He says thoughts become things, and all you have to do is manifest it. And it really, I wouldn't say it bothered me. I just didn't ever align with that, because to me, thoughts don't become things unless you take action. And that's when they become the thing. You make them become a thing. And you don't stop until you get that, you know, that thing done. A lot of people lack the follow through. They talk and have this great idea, but they lack following through. And I will follow through even if I've failed. I still tried it, and I've tried it like a whole bunch of different ways, but I'm not afraid to fail. And I know that ultimately, if I fail, I have something else to fall back on. See, some people are used to doing one thing, and they feel that if they try something new, that they don't have anything to fall back on. And in a way, that's true. But your mind can give you so many different opportunities. And I'm going to tell you that most of the things that your mind can dream up for you, you can do. Timing is everything. Resources are a lot as well. But the things that I have done in this industry of dentistry, most of those things were not original ideas. They all came from something that worked outside of our industry. So I do things that people don't do in our industry, but they do them outside of our industry. And I put my spin on them, and I know that they're going to work because we're still human, and they already work in a different industry. Nobody's tried them in this one. So I've spent most of the time getting creative and bringing ideas in, and I call them remixing the ideas.
Yeah. You know that this is one of my favorite sayings of my own, and it pisses so many people off. I've been cautioned by some people, maybe even you, to not say this, and I'm going to say it. Dentistry is special, but it's not a special fucking little snowflake.
I didn't say not to say that.
It's a business. And if you treat a business like a business will respond like a business. But if you treat a business like some sort of mysticism, it's going to respond the same way. You know, just a thought for you guys out there. Are you treating your business like a business, or are you treating it like some sort of capricious deity that you have to sacrifice to? Might help. So you chose a path, Elijah, that most men don't. You were a black male dental hygienist, or as I like to call you, my dental hygienist friend. What drew you into that?
Yep. Well, first off, you don't see many male hygienists. I think there's maybe 5% now, and it was like 1.5% whenever I graduated. You don't see many black male hygienists. So you can call that percentage way less.
You're literally the only one I know.
You definitely don't see any mixed male hygienists. I think I might know one. His name is Ty. He looks mixed anyways. But why did I do it? Why did I decide dental hygiene? Well, first off, dental school was too long. I knew long term I did not want to stay practicing clinically. I knew it takes money to make money. And I felt like instead of going and racking up another $300,000 to $500,000 in student loans, I would go and take my full ride at Ohio State, and I would, use that $40 an hour in Hawaii, and I would take that money and turn 40 an hour into 80, and then 80 into self-employment, and that's what I did. But why did I choose dentistry? Well, I'll take it back to the farm. I could not stand sweating like crazy, getting dirty on the farm. I wanted to be in the world of air conditioning. My uncle was a dentist. My aunt was a dentist. My mom was an office manager for over 20 years. And to me, that seemed like an air conditioning business that I could start my life with. Now, I didn't realize that I would stay in dentistry the entire time. I do not plan to leave dentistry. I plan to stay. There's so much opportunity.
Opportunity and needs. There are so many needs that, just the things that you and I have talked about, things that you haven't even tapped into yet, needs that need to be addressed.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I feel like dentistry is the best profession to be in. I don't think there's any better profession than we're in. If you can just go onto the vendor floor at any major show, Chicago, Midwinter, Greater New York, and you're going to see that there's so much opportunity. Just look, there's literally hundreds of companies. They all have solutions, products, services, softwares. And that's people that followed through and seen their dreams a little bit differently. Now, I love my clinical dental professionals. Heck, I'd be out of business if it weren't for them. But I just knew it wasn't for me early on. I'll never forget being told to put my phone in a locker. I just started my very first business, Hawaii Smiles Dental Staffing Agency. And I remember I would see in between my patients, I would check my phone and potentially get somebody to fill in for a practice. But I was an extremely high producer. My dentist loved me, and she allowed me to do that. My office manager did not like the fact that I got some extra special treatment and told me that I needed to keep my phone in the locker. So that happened. And around the same week, I went to the restroom twice in about a 15-minute period. And I felt micromanaged because that office manager said, "Didn't you just go to the bathroom 15 minutes ago?" And in my head, I'm sitting here thinking like, do I have to tell you that my stomach hurts and I had Taco Bell this morning to get something in my stomach quick? Like, do I have to tell you that? And I just knew then that clinical dentistry was not going to be for me.
Yeah. It's amazing how a petty office manager can destroy a team of good people. And honestly, to me, the most frightening part of that is that they typically choose the best producers and the people they're most threatened by to come down on.
Yep. It is unfortunate. I think that I would have, even if that office manager didn't do that, I think that I was destined to, work outside of the clinical operatory. However, that definitely sped it up. I remember sitting some days in the operatory and looking at my watch, and it would be like 9:50. And I was like wishing it was saying 4:50. So it was the beginning of my day. I was completely miserable. I felt trapped. And I'm like, there has to be more to dentistry than this. And I went and found it.
So did you face judgment or stigma as a male or as a black male, mixed male, as a dental hygienist?
Well,
or did you turn it on its head and make it a benefit?
That's a loaded question. Well, first off, I will tell you that there's two different parts of dentistry. There's the clinical part of dentistry, and then there's the industry. What I mean by the industry, I mean people that are, this is not in a clinical setting. It's your peers from all over the country, all over the world. And so I'm going to start with clinical. Clinical dentistry, I think being me, being a male hygienist, to me, it made me be like a unicorn. I had 8 different job opportunities. I was extremely successful as a clinical hygienist. On average, my production was around $3,000 a day, not including the multiple Invisalign cases that I would constantly push out. So I was a very high producer, and I could educate and make it so it was very easy to understand. And by the way, I was in a pedo practice. So that made it even easier because parents will do anything for their kids. As a hygienist, I believed in prevention. So everybody was getting fluoride. I believed in sealants, which was prevention. So everybody was, if it had a groove, I was sealing it. And I believed in straight teeth. Oral cancer screenings, those exist. You can catch cancer as a kid. You can get cancer. It's definitely, something that exists. And I was really a high producer. I felt like I could get hired from anybody. I started a temp agency. And when I started that staffing agency, people would try to hire me away from my full-time job on a regular basis. So to answer your question, being a male hygienist was totally flipped on its head. And a black male hygienist was totally flipped on its head. And by the way, I didn't have these beautiful pieces of art on my arms then, or arm.
He's got them everywhere. Don't let him lie to you.
I didn't have tattoos then, except for that one that was above the scrubs. So it was the best thing to be a black male hygienist, untatted yet. Now.
So you kind of already hit on this, but since it was one of these wonderful questions I prepared for you, I'm going to ask it anyway. So was there ever a moment that you felt that the industry as a whole didn't take you seriously because of your title or your background?
100% yes. 1,000% yes. And
talk to me about that.
So I'll start with, let's talk about the world of hygiene or hygienists. So I had left, well, first off, I still have a Hawaii license to this day, and I'm letting that thing go, finally. I had an Ohio and Hawaii license. But as a hygienist, 2013, I went into a lot of business, and I really didn't practice at all. 2012, actually, I moved to Las Vegas. And I have a type A personality. I love music. I love to have fun. And I love people. And I was up and coming in the industry. And in the hygiene world, as a black male hygienist, it was so hard coming up. What it was the old guard, they would tell the up and coming other people or people who were the movers and shakers, be careful, watch out. Hima seems too nice. And I didn't do anything wrong. It was like I was crucified and I didn't do anything. Like, if you're a bad person or if you did something wrong. But if you didn't do anything wrong, and these people who are very respected in the industry are telling people, like, don't go around him, don't attach your wagon to him. It is the worst feeling. And by that time, I had so many people that I had affected in dentistry because of social media and because I was speaking all over the country. I spoke 2012 to 2014 for Invisalign. I spoke about 50 times all over the country. And then from 2014 to 2016, I spoke about 50 times for Straumann because I was recruited from Straumann. And you see this guy that's speaking everywhere and nobody knew before. And just because I was new and I looked different, I was treated differently. And so that was hygienist specifically. So that the hygiene, and now listen, it wasn't like it was a majority. It was a loud 5% that was respected. And before you know it, 2018 came around. I had started Smiles at Sea, a dental conference on a cruise ship, a couple years back. And I started multiple other businesses. And financially, I was there. I made it. And I'm going to tell you, it was my early upbringings that reminded me, be your authentic self. And the hard part for me is that I would go into a room, and I was singing my same song. My volume was not adjusted. It wasn't blaring. I was singing my song. I was doing me. I was being my authentic self. And it was like nobody would look up and acknowledge me. And I kept on singing my song. And I'm like, man, am I in the wrong room? So I would switch rooms and I would feel so like the problem child or the outcast. I would sing a song, same tune, didn't go any louder, and nobody would even look up. They wouldn't even see who I was. They wouldn't acknowledge me. It was almost like I was taboo because the OGs told them not to talk to me. So I did that in about 1 or 2 more rooms, same response. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to build my own room. So I went and I built my own room. And all of a sudden, as soon as I turned the lights on and opened the door, the room was packed from so many people that didn't acknowledge me in other people's rooms. I had not changed my tone. I had not changed the station. I didn't increase the volume. I continued to be the same exact me with 0 changes. And all of a sudden I had a full room. And when I was in that room, I taught people to go build your own room. I taught people to build their room and build their own empire. And before you know it, I had went into all of these rooms. And as soon as I come into the room, you got everybody clapping and cheering and a round of applause. And they're hearing, and I didn't change my music. I had stayed the same. And you have these people and they're all clapping and cheering, but you have no idea who's really now on your side or against you. So there's almost like there's fake friends, and now they're around for the wrong reason. And when you get a ton of success and you pick up credibility and you've done a lot of things right, now all of a sudden, everybody wants to be your friend. When you couldn't even have one person acknowledge you when you went in the room before. And so that happened. That's what I went through. And that's not the industry part of what I went through, but that's the hygiene part of me evolving as a dental entrepreneur. And I had made it to the other side, and I got a tattoo, a sleeve. So I got a sleeve in 2018, and I told myself I knew better. I wasn't going to be on stage with the tattoo until I felt like I had made it. And I had made it, and my businesses were booming. And then before you know it, you get hit with some other mean people in the industry, in dentistry. And it was like, I already went through this when I was in high school. How is there bullying?
You put your finger right on the nose there. It's like so many people just never grew up from high school.
Yeah, like how is there bullying that exists? From industry, from people in the industry. How does that exist? Like I got through high school, found out be your authentic self. Went through college, great. Got through college, started practicing, started businesses, became a hygienist, and I always be your authentic self. You know, you've never seen me slide far left or slide far right. I've always led with kindness. I've always been very respectful. I always help people. I'm the most selfless person. And I built my entire empire from helping people and lifting people. That's how I built my empire. But yet, still, you have high school. But what it did, it knocked me on my butt. It knocked me on my butt for the very last time. I hope that's the last time I ever have to go through a rock bottom. But this was, 2 years of beatings. But I'll tell you specifically, it was in 2020 was the last one. That was the pandemic when it hit. And I had, my cruises. I was speaking all over, and the cyberbullying got to the the max possible. And that was a depression that I had went through. And the cool thing is, it was only 3 days. It was a few day depression, and I was able to come out of it. And now I feel like I'm so resilient. And look, I will always grow, but I've made it in the space. And I'm not out here trying to just talk to the big guy, just be around the people at the very top at all. I constantly push myself down and help people that are starting. I'm here for the underdog. And what happened, I didn't realize what was happening, but I had helped so many hundreds or thousands. I mean, we both have groups with, 25, 26,000 people. But I basically helped for so long. There was hundreds of underdogs or thousands of underdogs that I helped. So many of those people are up at the top. And now all of a sudden, I have been around for over a decade and I've earned my cred. And there's not people anymore that are like, watch out there, watch him, be careful. It doesn't exist. Instead, it's the opposite, where everybody wants to be your best friend. And it was like, man, where were you at when I was coming up? Which is why you get so close with people that had to go through the struggle with you.
That might be one of the reasons you're in that chair.
Right.
So this is a question I asked that I asked because no one ever asked a question like this or phrased like this in a podcast. What was the insurmountable chip on your shoulder that made you work harder than everyone else around you?
Oh. I don't think that I don't think it was a chip on my shoulder or something that I wanted to prove. I have this God-given ability it's a very ambitious person. Like, I think that anything is possible. And the difference between me and other people, because I didn't do what I did to prove it to people. I did it because I'm just a creative person that's an implementer. And I see things and they're really obvious. And so I just go and do them. So I'm a doer. I'm an action taker. But I was never one to say have a chip on my shoulder or feel entitled. I was one that I wanted to be like, I didn't get motivated when people told me I couldn't do it. That does not motivate me. In fact, I'm not around those type of people. What does motivate me is people telling me that I can do it, or I believe you're actually going to do it. Oh my gosh, Elijah has another idea, because I'm known for actually doing the stuff. Where some people do get very motivated when somebody tells them that they can't do something. I don't. I'm the opposite. And that's why I choose to hang around the people that I hang around. And I don't hang around people that are naysayers or people that are negative. And so I don't think it was a chip on my shoulder. I think it was a God-given ability.
I'll give you a piece of insight. This is why I wrote that question. And I phrase it like that because it makes people really think. They're like, oh, do I have a... I think that the thing that pushes you is not because someone told you can't. It's not because someone's trying to hold you back. It's because you don't refuse to fail. You refuse to fail because you didn't try.
Mm-hmm.
Just something I've always thought about the way that you operate.
So essentially, I'll try everything.
You're going to give it a try. If you have an idea, you're going to give it a try. And, and if it fails, you're like, man, is this worth some more effort? Did I get any kind of response? Can I change this or change that? Or you might say, well, that one didn't work. Let me try something else.
Right. And one of my best friends, his name's Brandon. It was my second business partner. Brandon told me that, he goes, the reason why you're so successful is because you are so unrealistic. You are the biggest optimist, and the things that
I know Brandon, and I can actually hear those words as you're saying them. That's hilarious.
He's like, Elijah, that doesn't even make any sense. But the thing is you actually believe your craziness. Like you really believe it. And so you go so much further than the average person, because the stuff that you believe, you actually go and you get it done. And if you don't get it done, that's way further than the average person would have got. And I like to say, if I didn't get something done, it was impossible.
Or impossible for you.
Or impossible for me.
And that's okay too, because you tried.
Yep. And that's okay.
So would you say that's a fair characterization?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So we're gonna kind of jump into something that you mentioned a little while ago. And man, you're so good at leading into my future questions. Take me to the lowest point where everything felt like it was falling apart. What happened and how did you climb out?
Lowest part. I was on a high, actually. And that high that I was on, I was in New Orleans. I just got done DJing for Dr. Anissa Holmes delivering Wild Conference in New Orleans, and was going down the streets of Bourbon Street happy. I just just got done DJing at Mardi Gras World, and the fire trucks come through and say we have to vacate Bourbon Street because the pandemic is in full effect. The virus had now infected about 8 people, and I had to go home to the Airbnb with my team to then get an email saying that the cruise was canceled. And the Smiles at Sea cruise, we were on track to break 700 people.
Tell everyone what your goal was and what drove you on that every time.
Whew, he brought me back. My goal was to fill an entire cruise ship. It was to fill an entire dental conference cruise ship. And that's crazy. You remember that because I kind of blacked that out. And I was on track for 700 for my April cruise and breaking 1,000 for my Bermuda cruise that was supposed to happen in October. I remember I just got another room block because the whole cabin block had already been filled. And I was on my track. I was growing by 30% every year. And I was just at an ultimate peak. And then they said the cruise was canceled. Now, when the cruise was canceled, immediately all of the people that were on the cruise are also in a panic because their offices are being shut down for emergencies only, a lot of the country. So they don't know when their next paycheck is.
And they all want their money back.
And they all want their money back. Well, let me go ahead and tell you that in this type of business, money is spent to pay all expenses. And, oh, by the way, the cruise ship was not refunding back. They were giving credits, and actually longer credits than usual. And in my policy for purchasing tickets, there was no refunds, and we had a force majeure policy. I had never been threatened with so many lawsuits at one time. I had probably 10 to 15 really, really unhappy people. And I went as far as saying, listen, not only am I going to give you a credit, I'm going to give you a credit that does not expire, and you could actually move it between team members, switch team members. And I took it a step further. I had so many friends that also threw dental conferences. I got 10 people that had conferences to let the people that got this ticket use it on their conference. If they wanted, they could transfer the ticket. And still yet, I had people so upset because of that. All of my speaking events had been canceled throughout the entire country. And I had a business that I had spent most of my time on called Life. It was a CBD mouth spray that we had about almost 1,000 sales reps for. It was a dry mouth spray for dental practices. The way you get it into the dental practices was giving continuing education to dental offices. Well, the thing is your Patterson and Shine rep couldn't even get into your practice. They had to wait in the parking lot. So a new rep for a new product definitely is not getting in. So after I had invested tens and thousands of dollars into this company and so much of my time, I find out we can't even get into the practice. So you have this person who was on cloud 9, breaking all the goals, just started Scratch Academy as a DJ, and my goal of doing dental conferences. And they basically said, sorry, you can come and do a virtual DJ session, but everything is canceled. Your whole life is canceled. And so there was one business that was actually thriving through it all, and that was my marketing agency. It was called Driven Dental Implant Marketing. And we pivoted to something called a virtual patient advocate. And that was basically, we did the marketing and we provided the patients to the dental practice. They already had been through a complete screening. They had got finance already. And we had like the cream of the crop because people were being sent home from their jobs. and they didn't know when they were going to go back to work. So I got some amazing treatment coordinators. Anyhow, we pivoted to that, and we also pivoted to doing emergency dentistry. And that one thing financially saved me. Now, it didn't give me enough money to hit return on all of those credits, but what it did do is it gave me enough money to continue to put food on the table for my family. At that time that I had all of those things happen to me, I was cyber bullied to the maximum. With all of those things combined, the no speaking, your cruise, your entire identity in this industry thus far is being taken from you. You can't get on stage and speak any longer. You're getting this new craft to DJ, and you're getting pretty good at it. You just DJ'd at Mardi Gras World. It's being put on hold, and you have one thing left that's actually bringing you in money, and it's your marketing agency. All of this money that you put into the CBD factory, it is all for nothing. You have to close that company. And then it was like somebody said, put your teeth on this curb and I'm going to kick your head in. That was the cyberbullying that hit me at my lowest moment. And by the way, around this time, we had created another business called Dental Hub 360. And isn't that a word that gives you PTSD?
No, not at all.
And that was not going as planned either. So you have all of these things in the weight of the world.
Wait, you make it sound like if 4 dental entrepreneurs came together and found a way to offer free continuing education for dentists worldwide and forcing actual dental supply companies to pay for that, since the dentist paid them all their money for their supplies, you sound like that wouldn't be well received.
It wasn't. It wasn't well received. And all of this stuff is like at the same time. It's like it was like one thing after the next. And so I went into a really bad place. And to me, when I go into a bad place, I don't act out. I don't do bad things. I don't do things that are out of character. When I go to a bad place, you just won't see me. I go into a hole. And that hole that I had went into, it was, you go to sleep. I told my wife, I need to please let me be. Let me be. I'm going to sleep during the day. I'm sleeping all through the night. I'm waking. I just want to go back to sleep. That was my last time that I went into a deep depression. Was going through that. And I'm going to tell you the only way that I got out of that is I went and I gave back. So part of the company that I owned at the time called Life, we took 10% of all of the monies that we had got, and we went out each month and we basically gave that back through various charities, or donations. We would go around and I would pass out. One month I want to say I had, multiple thousands of dollars, and I would go to homeless people on the street and give them money. I would go into grocery stores and pay for mom's groceries. I would hand this money out, and it was like, that is what got me out of the rut, is going in this giving back. And it was a time that changed everything, and I thought that it was changing it for the worst. The pandemic was the best thing that actually ever happened to me. And I can't believe that was 5 years ago. Whew.
So we talked a little bit earlier about one of your superpowers. Maybe your best superpower is your pivot game is strong.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the weirdest, most awesome continuing education event I've ever been to.
Which one was it? Smiles at Sea or the festival?
Well, it might have been Smiles at Sea. You couldn't get a boat because you guys couldn't go on the cruises.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. The Embassy Suites.
Yeah.
Yep. So we couldn't go on the cruises anymore, and I needed to do something.
And you've got to set this whole visual up because, like I said, it was the weirdest event I've ever been to, but it actually turned out to be one of my favorite events of all time.
Yeah. So first off, we're in a time where there's masks. So we even gave our logo. It was an anchor. It's like a smiley face anchor. We gave the logo a mask. So everybody's got to wear a mask. They have to social distance. And the vendor halls were not vendor halls. We actually made them the hotel rooms. So if anybody's ever been to the Embassy Suite, there's like the center area, and everybody can look down to the center area from their room. You come out the room, you look in the center area. So basically, the rooms are all suites. So we set the rooms up because it was couches and there was a table in the rooms. That was the vendor stations, and that event, it was actually called Smiles at Sea on Land, and we hashtagged it the Dental Festival. Use that hashtag. And at the time, during the pandemic, I'm watching companies sell and raise a ton of money. And I'm like, man, I don't know the first thing about raising money. But I bet you if I built something that was like Shark Tank, but for dental, I bet you it would be successful. And so I created it, and it was called Dental Tank. So we had Dental Tank at the Dental Festival. Mind you, everybody is craving for human, like, to be in touch with each other. We shut the world down for so long. People just wanted to have an event where they could see their friends after being in hibernation for a whole year almost. And so this event, I had over 100 companies that pitched me their business. And I had picked 25 of them to come to pitch the business. And then I had about 60 to 80 strategic investors pitch me on why they wanted to be on my stage as an investor. And I picked 8 of them. And we were able to get, of the 25, we were able to get 8 of them funded between $300,000 and $3 million. So that event happened there. We also had a Havana pool party, and we had dancers, and we had a musician playing with the DJ, cigar rolling. It was just amazing. We had a black tie event that event, and then we had Dentistry's Got Talent as well, and we had 50 speakers competing in an American Idol style event, all live streamed. We hit 110,000 views that event, and it was like the world was back. And that event I did for I basically decided I would do it 2 times per year until my cruises finally came back. And when my cruises finally came back, which are rocking and rolling again, by the way, when they came back, we came back with about half the audience, about 325 people.
So let's talk about a couple of things there. I mentioned this was the weirdest, it really was weird, event, but it was one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. Do you know why?
I don't know why.
Because for a year and a half, I hadn't seen a smile of a team member, of a patient. Mm-hmm. And it was unintentional genius to put the logo with the anchor on the masks, because every mask looked like it had a smile. And it's the weirdest thing that it affected me that much. But I had such a great time. And I'm well known for not doing something. How many of your events have I been to?
I think you've been to a couple of cruises and you went to a couple of festivals, but I've had a lot of,
And what do I never do? I never go to the black tie party.
Like you went that year.
Yes, and what did I wear?
You think you had a hat on? And
I wore a tux with tails, a cane, and a top hat.
Yep.
For your ass. And I told you that night, okay, I did it. And stop bothering me. We had such a good time that night. And I think it was because the pivot was so strong.
Mm-hmm. It was, and it worked. It worked. I mean, we had 525 people, which is crazy. And the very next one, which was in October, was at the Diplomat Hotel. We had 800 people. And the one after that was Nashville. We finally hit our 1,000. I mean, the pivot game was really strong.
and for you guys who don't know, the 1,000 was the number that he was looking for when he says fill a cruise ship. Yeah. So you're known for your, I'm sorry, I'm skipping a question. What is a failure or a betrayal that still stings, but taught you an extremely valuable lesson?
So I got stung about 6 times. So let me
Backed in the whole hornet's nest, man.
yeah, let me. What was that? What was that? Cat Williams and who was that? The podcast that went viral. There was a podcast with Cat Williams and like not Sherry Shepherd or what was the name? I mean, it was crazy. It was like the most viewed podcast of all time. Whenever Cat Williams let the cat out the bag, like he told all of he pulled all the things out the closet, because like everybody has secrets that they just hold in the closet, and it doesn't have to be about them.
Is that what this podcast is going to be? Is that what you're saying?
No, but when you have me back, I might.
Hey, you've had a standing invitation for years now.
But there was, you asked me, how does it feel whenever you get stabbed in the back, right? That specifically is it.
No, what was a betrayal or a failure that still stings but taught you an extremely valuable lesson?
I'll dive in on one of them. A betrayal. I was very, very close with a company called Burst.
Ah.
And that was with Hamish, the founder of Burst. And I remember him and I were really, really close. And so close to where I brought my best friends and then 2 family members to Las Vegas and Hamish, because he was that level, right? And, I supported like crazy, got him so many of his original ambassadors from my Facebook group. And I never asked for any equity, any part of his company, but was a huge supporter. And I started a company called Life, which was a CBD mouth spray. And I'll never forget getting a phone call from him saying, unfortunately, we're going to have to end our business relationship. And we could still be friends, but we're going to have to end our business relationship because of this CBD dry mouth spray. Now, I had been asked prior to start a toothbrush company with extremely high stakes on the line. And I turned it down and said no. Why? Because I didn't want to have a competition to one of my friends named Hamish. So I turned it down. It was a life-changing offer.
Was it a guy named Jeff?
No, it was not. And if this is one of them bones, I don't want to throw somebody at the table.
No. We don't want to dig up any bones, but that's the reason I was asking. I was asked to do the same exact thing. I just wonder if it was the same guy.
Different guy. But it was a life-changing opportunity for me, and I turned it down. Then I started this CBD company, nothing to do at all with the toothbrush company. And I was standing outside the Hilton in West Palm Beach on the phone. He calls me and goes, Elijah, we have to cut business ties. And the reason is because you are now my competition. And what was the learning of that? Well, first off, I was like really hurt. I was really hurt. I didn't forgive him personally until about a year and a half ago, when this amazing woman named Shireen Washington came into my life and taught me how to forgive. And I forgave all those 6 people, including him. But what did it teach me? It taught me that most people are not really in it for you. They're in it for themselves. And the minute that you can no longer serve them, they're out like a thief in the night. And being prepared for that is something that will, for that not being used or lack of abundance, but being prepared for that set me up for the rest of my business career. Because I know that most people are not ride or die. Most people, they have a time period in your life. And that time period in your life, you don't know if it's going to be a couple years, a couple months, but typically most people are there to serve themselves. And you feel like you were used. And so it stung so bad. And then, at the end of the day, the company failed. The company went under. Life, I lost so much money on. Why did it fail? Because the pandemic. Did it have something to do with some cyber bullying as well and some fake news and hating on it? Yep, it did. But at the end of the day, that business failed and I never got my friendship back.
Yeah.
You know?
I've been in a similar situation with a company I started.
Mm-hmm.
The party shall remain nameless. We are still friends, but I went to them and I said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing, and I just want to make sure it's not a conflict." "Oh no, you can't do that. That's a conflict." I said, "Well, I don't see anywhere where we offer this thing I'm doing."
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, it's on the roadmap." And so to my way of thinking was like, well, great. So if I build this thing and it works, you buy it from me and you've got a ready-made business unit, because that's how I think. But not everyone is a blue ocean kind of a thinker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, it was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing, and if it works, you buy it. It saved you a bunch of labor, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. It's not a conflict, and you build what you were going to build.
Mm-hmm.
No loss either way. Gain on one side, but we had to end our business relationship over that, and I'm not upset by it, but it just made me think, wow, that's so limited.
Yeah, and it shows there's just a lot of people that have this scarcity mindset, right? Like, do I understand on a big picture? Like, yes, do these people's profile photo and cover photo go from purple to green? Like, I can't be naive of that. You're like, yes, I see that, but don't you think that there's enough to go around? Like, there should be a blue ocean mentality, not a scarcity mentality where somebody can only do your stuff. And so it really helped to position my mind for future relationships. The good news is that it didn't scar me, because I still go all in on my relationships. And I go all in and I assume that somebody is good until they're not, or assume that somebody is there for the right reason and then they're not. And at the end of the day, I'm a stronger person because of it. And do I blame or do I put it on Hamish? Nope, I forgave him. I actually have forgave all 6 people, including the people that cyber bullied, right? And that was my biggest weakness as a person, is like, once somebody stabs me in the back, I just couldn't forgive them. They just didn't. And I'm not malicious or nasty. If somebody did me wrong, I actually am always one that has taken the high road. They just didn't exist anymore to me. They didn't exist as a human.
You know, it's funny. As you know very well, I had some of the same people harassing me, and saying I was a fake, saying I was trying to scam people, which is funny because I never actually asked for money from anyone. I gave free information and free help. And the second that I sold my practice, and what I sold my practice for, as you know, it becomes part of public record. And these people, as you know, also were very intently looking into our lives.
Mm-hmm.
The second I sold my practice, crickets. Isn't it funny how that works? I guess they realized I was producing as much as I said, and my systems must have worked because I was.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how this crabs in a bucket mentality is so centered in dentistry, and it's tragic.
Mm-hmm. The tragedies do exist, and those types of people exist. I've just chosen to surround myself around like a group of extremely high integrity, high caliber dental professionals that they share the same core values as me. And I have so many close friends like that I don't even pay attention to the dark world. What does this call it?
That's a different dimension, right?
Yes.
By the way, I have to say 2 things. First of all, it was Dean Hutto, and the reason I remember that...
Dean Hutto.
Dean Hutto. This was a conversation we had at lunch, because whenever we walked into his suite, he waved his arm at the back cabinet where all the chips and stuff were and said, serve yourselves. So when you said some people are only out to serve yourselves, I heard his voice and I was like, oh my God, I remember the guy's name.
So what was he do? Because we said a bunch of things. What were you trying to relate Dean to? That wasn't the guy that had you create a toothbrush, was it?
This is just for you. This is just for you. None of you guys know the story.
Okay.
And you won't. But anyway, this is the story of that night that we got together. And you asked which dental festival it was. It was that one where we were hanging out in Dean Hutu's room.
Okay.
So, that was a complete different aside. And
that's the ADD.
It is. It is.
I love it.
And the other thing that popped in my head that I just had to say was you have got the best microphone hygiene of any guest I've ever had. You are so good at not hitting the mic when you gesture and talk with your hands. Oh man, it's hilarious. So you've already talked about this a little bit, but I want you to do as deep of a dive into it as you would like. What was the moment that you decided to stop fitting into the box and to build your own platform?
My own platform being Smiles at Sea, right?
No, whatever that means to you.
I mean, the thing that sticks out the most to me is I spoke for Straumann after speaking for Invisalign, and I went to be an independent speaker. And as an independent speaker, you have to get your own gigs. And I remember going and asking so many meeting planners, I would love to speak at your conference. I would love to speak at your event. And they would all say, well, you can go online and apply. Applications there, but just know that we're booked out for the next 2 years. And when you know that you can kill it on the stage, you just feel like shit. You feel really bad. You're constantly getting denied. And, I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build my own. I'm going to build my own event. And so I did it. And when I built my own event, all of a sudden, all of these big name speakers, this is in 2015, right? All these big name speakers are blowing my phone up. People that are the greats of dentistry, the OGs of dentistry.
That's how I met Paul Homling.
Yep, Paul Homling came on the boat 2 or 3 times. And all of a sudden, when you start hanging out with the cool kids, people start blowing your phone up. So when I created my own event is when all of these other conferences started calling me to be their keynote for these conferences all over the country. And the crazy thing is that I had over 100 applications for speakers every year. And what kind of sucked but came around full circle is I would become friends with these people, a lot of people that happened to be speakers. And I would always get the question popped up. Eventually it would come. Hey, if you ever need a speaker to speak on XYZ, I'd love to speak on your cruise. And what I would have to tell them is unfortunately, we're booked out for the next 2 years, 2 cruises, but you can apply online.
How did that feel?
It felt like shit.
Yeah.
Because I realized I had become the person who I couldn't stand.
Did you ever think about, and maybe going forward, I know you're not really, and we'll get into that, you're not really as involved there anymore, but did you ever think about having a wild card night where, kind of like Dentistry's Got Talent, but people want to speak on things, you give them 30 minutes and you have the audience vote on who comes back?
So I created Dentistry's Got Talent. So the reason why, so I felt like crap, so my solution was Dentistry's Got Talent.
I was wondering.
So with Dentistry's Got Talent, I was able to put 50 people on stage 2 and 3 times a year. Those 50 people will get voted on by the conference decision makers. At first, it was sponsors. Then conferences came. My last event, in which I was the CEO of with Dentistry's Got Talent, a dental festival, we had 25 meeting planners from the largest meetings in the country. I'm talking about Chicago Midwinter, the Georgia Dental Association, DICMA, DSO Leadership Summit. I mean, the list goes on, but we had like 25 meeting planners. And so anyhow, that essentially was what I did because I was tired of letting people down. So now I had a way to service 100+ speakers. And guess what? The winner of the speaking competition, they got to speak on the cruise. And so now all of a sudden, I don't get to be the bad guy anymore.
Yeah, it's too bad there's already a book called Pivot, huh?
Right. That's what I did.
So Smiles at Sea was insane whenever you created it. What made you convinced that you could commit to something so unconventional, other than, as Brandon said, you just believe the impossible can be done?
What made me convinced? Well, you're talking about the year of 2014 going into 2015. And, I was newer out of school. I was 5 years out. I graduated in 2009. And I would go to continuing education and feel like I would just rather watch paint dry. It was so boring. And they went there and they left after, and there was no fun. Maybe there would be a couple people that stayed at the bar afterwards, but for the most part, it was so boring. And I'm like, I went on a cruise ship for my first time, and I was like, oh my God, this is the most fun I have ever had. They have something to do constantly. They have bingo. They have a casino. They have a comedy show. They even have a Cirque du Soleil type of events. They have so many different restaurants. Everybody's always happy. And they even have a nightclub. By the way, you go to a vacation spot. You go to the Bahamas, or you go to Cozumel or Aruba or Key West or Bermuda or Alaska. You're going on vacation. Why in the world don't they put CE on one of these cruise ships and make it the most fun event ever?
And make it a tax-deductible vacation you bring your family on?
Right. Made sense. So that was something that I had seen so clear. And you know what? What did it for me is I went on a Facebook group. It was a dental hygiene group, actually. And I made a post. I said, who would ever go on a continuing education conference on a cruise ship? And within 5 minutes, I had over 200 comments. Now, this is back in 2014. And within 5 minutes, my post was deleted from the founder of the group because of advertising policies. Now, I hadn't...
That seems to be a common thread for you.
So I seen the posts. I was commenting when this got deleted. And I didn't even create a business yet. But it was that interest that I was like, okay, I know it now. So I created the event September 27th, 15. Oh my goodness. And I did it. And the first event that I had 289 people. And it was just like the best thing ever. And I took a lot of heat from the OGs from that cruise, creating the cruise. And because it was a party. So I got named the party boy, or Elijah's a party. Well, first off, I'm just like you. I just happen to have drinks or dance in public around other dental professionals. When you do it with your friends, I do that with other dental professionals. And to me, they took the word professional way too far. Like you can have DDS or RDH or DA after your name, but I really don't care. You are still a human. You're still a human. You still can have fun and enjoy yourself. And let me go ahead and be clear. I always drank and had fun, but I was never sloppy. Mm-hmm. Do I like to have fun? Did I like to stay out late? Did I like to enjoy myself and network? Yep, that I sure did. And at first I was like, oh, that's not really me. You're misunderstanding. And then when people started saying, yeah, I heard you like to have fun. You are right. I sure do. And I'm a fun person and I enjoy myself. And you know what? That attracts the right people. I talk a lot about being your authentic self. And I talk a lot about people faking it. And ultimately, when you're faking it and you're not being real, you are attracting the wrong people. You're attracting the wrong audience. And with this, I was attracting the right audience. I attracted a fun group of people, which is why we continued to grow prior to the pandemic.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but you spoiled the hell out of everyone there. I remember I was asked to sit in on Dentistry's Got Talent, I think as a judge once or something. And I'm sitting there and this lady comes up behind me and she says, "Would you like your back rub?" Right? Do you remember
I
that?
just had her come to we just had a retreat for my mastermind yesterday, and Denise Leonard is the massage therapist that you're referring to, and I was just with her. I just had her fly out for my retreat.
That moment, I mean, at the partying and you know, I'd been to things like that before, but the depth to which you went to cater to the people who were there just impressed me.
Thank you. I mean, I think it was super important to always treat everybody as if I wanted to be treated.
Didn't you also have, at the risk of making you sound like the party boy, didn't you also have an IV place that came out for anyone who overpartied the night before?
Yes. Yes.
So.
I had that, and that was 2021, the first dental festival called Smiles at Sea Land. I had Vivos. They sponsored the IV people. And so there was at least, I want to say 100 IV bags from that event. And some people, they just wanted to get all replenished and refreshed, and they didn't even go out the night before. But there's a lot of people who were hung over. And guess what? They tapped that IV for an hour, and they were good to go. And so, yes, I had that. And so I think people really, and you probably see my voice even change when we start talking about this because it gets me fired up. Mm-hmm. People think that it is taboo to go and enjoy yourself. And still
Some
to this
people
day,
take themselves too seriously because they doubt their own abilities.
Yes, and I never understood it. I still don't understand it to this day. I feel like it's fake.
You live in a different world than that. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, whatever it is, I still don't agree with it.
No, I get that. So, changing topics a little bit here because I have to get you onto a flight, and even though I'm enjoying this conversation, I've got to move it along. Otherwise, you have to spend the night, which you're welcome to do. But your wife and your kids might be upset with me, and you know, I'm afraid of her, so I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
So, how did your neurodiversity actually become a competitive advantage in creativity or innovation in your businesses?
I think you would have to define neurodiversity so I can 100% understand and answer the question right.
ADHD, yada, yada, yada.
Okay. How did it become an advantage? It just gave me the ability to think out the box. You know, if I wanted to sum it up, I could think.
No box.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't have one. And anytime that somebody tried to box me in, I would just not be around that person. There's a lot of people out there that essentially will tell you that you can't do it and try to box you in or put you in a category. Oh, you're a dental hygienist. I wouldn't even wear my badge to conferences. Like and I still don't. Now it's a fashion thing because I love clothes and style and shoes, and it jacks my whole fit up, right? But like just saying like he's a hygienist or talking to somebody different because I'm a hygienist, it blows my mind. People like judge you or they think something of you because of a certain title. Male is one. Hygienist is another. Guy with tattoos and his hat backwards is another. And then the one that I love the most. Oh, DJ Smiles. He's a DJ and he's a broker. Oh, he's
a polymath. He's multi-talented. He must be bad.
Right.
What mindset do you have to adopt? I mean, that's not even red ocean, blue ocean. Mm-hmm. We're talking fucking aliens here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, people get used to it though, which is a blessing. Like it really is so easy for me now. The people are easier, right? Even though there's fakeness out there that exists, and it's not from me, it's other people trying to pretend, right? Or coming around for the wrong reasons. But at the end of the day, it's really easy now because I've got my stripes. I've earned my stripes, and it's way different than it used to be.
So speaking of stripes, I'm glad to hear about the badge thing because every event, I always felt like I was disappointing you because I would go over there and I would have my badge. And you guys, if you guys haven't been to one of Elijah's events, they have this cool little thing where there's these stickers that basically tell people who you are and what you've done. And I may or may not have an arm length of those ribbons, and I will not wear them.
Yep.
And I don't know if you ever noticed that. I hope you didn't.
No, I never noticed.
But I take those and I like throw them away.
Right.
So I feel a little bit better about that now. So I know I didn't disappoint you.
No.
So this one's I think a really cool question, at least for my mind. What is the biggest risk that you ever took that could have ruined everything, but ended up changing your life instead?
Being myself. Easiest question you've asked. The number one risk in life is being yourself.
Maybe the number one risk in life is not.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That was a lot easier than I thought. We might get through these questions. So, when did you realize you weren't just in dentistry, that you were building a movement?
Woo. This is
Gotcha.
This is recent. And it probably going to be full circle into something that you were going to ask anyways, but it's perfect.
Oh, that's okay. I'm used to you running all over my questions.
I realized that I was bigger than just dentistry just recently. I'll tell you the end of the story first, and then I'll tell you the story. I am in the world of changing people's lives and saving people's lives. I'm doing that through a vehicle of motivational concerts. I have some really interesting stories as of recent that made me realize that I'm in the real world. I'm not only in dentistry now, and I'll go ahead and explain that. I was out one night. I had been in Ohio for a month. Missed my girl so much, but my dad was dying. And I knew it was about time. And by the way, no regrets. I'm in a really good place. I'm not grieving. And I got to do some cool stuff with my dad before he passed. But anyhow, it's part of the story. I went out the night before he passed, and he's in hospice at his house. I went out the night before. I just needed to get out the house. I needed to, hear some music and get in a different mind frame. And there's this guy that's sitting in the VIP with his security. And I happen to know the DJ, and DJ Smooth, he goes, "Hey, you know that's Gorilla Zoe, right?" And I'm like, "What? Gorilla Zoe is here in Canton, Ohio?" And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know him?" And he goes, "Nope." And I said, "I'm going to go try to talk to him." He said, "Good luck." He has security all around him. So anyways, I went and I said to the security guard, "Hey, do you mind if I say hi to Gorilla Zoe?" And he went and talked to Gorilla Zoe, and Gorilla Zoe actually got up and he introduced himself. He goes, "DJ Smiles?" And I'm like, you don't know me. I might be a dental celebrity, but I'm not a real world celebrity, right? And he says, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm actually not doing that good. My dad's probably going to die tomorrow." And he was like, at that moment, he was like, "I want you to come on back here with me." So I went back there with him, and we talked for about 15 minutes. He asked me if there was anything that he could do for me. And I said, "Man, is that a real question?" He goes, "Anything." I said, "I would love if you can come to my dad's tomorrow." I said, "My family would flip out." And anyways, after my dad passed away, literally within an hour, Gorilla Zoe comes walking up in the driveway.
Wow, what a good dude.
What a good guy, right? And he then, him and I sit in my dad's convertible, top down, when I bought him, for like 2 hours and just got to know one another. He then gets up and performs for my whole family. And before he takes off, he goes, "Is there anything else that I could do for you?" And I said, "Man, people don't ask me this question that often." So I have this.
You're usually the one asking it.
What's that?
It's because you're usually the one asking.
Yes, exactly. So I'm like, man, somebody's finally asked to do something for me. I'm going to go ahead and take him up on it. I said, "Yep." I said, "Would you be open to coming to my first motivational concert?" And it's going to be 7 high schools in one large football stadium. And it's not a concert with a whole bunch of like music with people performing. Instead, there's music. I'm DJing, and I have about 5 motivational speakers. They're going to be there to change these kids' lives. And The reason why I'm doing motivational concerts is because I've been speaking as a motivational speaker in high schools since I've been 15 years old. And I'm always able to save one or two kids' lives from the stage. I wanted to make a bigger impact. So I created motivational concerts in 2020, created 3 of them, went to school to Scratch Academy for 2.5 years to be a battle DJ. Then the pandemic happened. They all canceled. So this is the first time in 5 years I'm actually having a motivational concert. And I actually would like for you to just come and be my guest. Just be in the audience. And I'm not asking you to perform. I'm not asking you to speak. And just come be my guest. And he goes, what's the date? I told him, I said September 3rd. He said, count me as in. I'm done. I'm coming for sure. I then told him, I said, one of the speakers I have is actually Harvey Mason Jr., the CEO of the Grammy Awards. Me and Harvey have built a relationship up over the past couple of years. And he's like, oh, wow, you know Harvey? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm in dentistry, but I actually am a part of the real world as well. And I happen to know him from work that I do with Beyond the Game, the nonprofit that I volunteer for. Anyhow, I called him up about a week and a half before just to make sure he was coming. He got his manager on the phone with me, and he told his manager, he said, I want you to make sure we get all this information down of where I need to be and when. And another thing, make sure that he doesn't pay a dime. I then tell him, I said, Harvey ended up canceling. He's not going to be able to come. I said, I don't need you to perform, but would you be open to speaking for the kids? He said, absolutely. So he comes, he shows up. And by the way, it wasn't just him that showed up. There was a lot of super amazing speakers. Olympians, 2-time Olympians, fastest rugby player in the world, Cassandra Sistrunk, a trainer, a coach for the Olympics, and Bronkar Lee, some amazing humans. Anyhow, this event happened September the 3rd, and he gets up there and shares his message with the kids, which was super powerful, and he performs. I didn't even ask him to perform. The other DJ put his song on, one of his many songs, and he performed, and he just absolutely killed it. We're coming back from the event, see him at the hotel, and I said, man, you just absolutely killed it. So what can I do for you? And he goes, Elijah, you did something for me that nobody else has ever did. You showed me a new season in life. I've never spoke for kids before, and I feel like this is my new calling. You didn't notice I was nervous? I said, no. I said, are you nervous when you perform? He goes, absolutely not. I said, but I was speaking. I wasn't performing. You didn't notice I was nervous? And I was like, no, I didn't. He goes, man, I like you. You got good energy. I like to be around somebody with your energy all the time. And he goes, matter of fact, you want to come on tour with me to be my DJ? I said, oh my God. I said, I have a very busy life. Let me see your calendar. Looked at the calendar, and his calendar is literally like January to June. He's gone every day performing.
Nope.
And I'm like, listen, that sounds so fun, but I got a family at home. I'm already super busy, like in another world, but I'd like to come out for a week. And he goes, okay, that sounds good. Just let me know whenever you want to come. And so you got to schedule like Jelly Roll. He's like, I would actually like to do a collaboration with Jelly Roll. And I'm like, guess what?
He's such an interesting dude, isn't he?
Jelly Roll? Oh my God, I'm obsessed. I said, guess what? I said, you came out and donated your time for these motivational concerts. I would love if you hold on, cut that part out because I don't want him to. I don't want to cut this part because I don't want people knowing that he donated his time.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Cut 30 seconds previous.
So Jelly Roll said, man, I'd love to do a collaboration with Jelly Roll. And I'm like, man, guess what? I said, my best friend is president of Beyond the Game, the nonprofit that we just did the event for. And he happens to know Jelly Roll's manager. So when we get your highlight reel, I'm going to send it over and try to get you guys connected. So we're actually in the process right now.
That's fantastic.
So we talk about real world. That is putting me in the real world. I just got asked to be on a news station down in South Florida about these motivational concerts. And now we have, in the next 18 months, we're planning a motivational concert in Hawaii, in Las Vegas, back in Ohio, and down in South Florida. So 4 of them. And whenever I sell all of my businesses, which, will be one day, and I wouldn't say it's going to be 10 years, I will only do these motivational concerts. Like that's the reason why I was put on earth, to save kids' lives. And that day I saved 6 kids' lives. Now this has nothing to do with dentistry, right? And I'm getting to hang out with a lot of real celebrities, and it's in the best way possible. I would never pick another way to meet these people. And it's through the process of saving and changing these kids' lives.
That's fantastic. We might actually have to have you out and just talk about that and how people can get involved.
Mm-hmm.
If you wouldn't mind actually dropping some information real quick on if they're interested in helping out with that, how can they contact you?
Absolutely. Well, first off, on social media, I'm everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or you can email me specifically at elijah@gobeyondthegame.org. And there's multiple ways to help with it. We do a few events. One of them is called Christmas Toys for Tots or something like that. It's a Christmas give back. So basically we take these kids that are underserved population, and we give them a gift card in Walmart, and they go shopping after I speak to the kids. They go shopping spree. And it's actually such a blessing to watch, because these kids, a lot of them are doing shopping for other people. So these are kids that lack, but they're getting something for their mom.
They're the most generous people.
They're getting something for their dad. They're getting something for their brother and sister, not them. So that's amazing. That's one of the things we do around Christmas time. So I don't know if this comes out before or after Christmas, but I think it's something that if you're interested in donating, you can donate to that cause. It's a 501c3, so it's a tax deductible. We also have something called Guys with Ties and Girls with Pearls. So Guys with Ties it's a 3rd grade program. Girls with Pearls is a 3rd grade program. And we teach the boys to look good, feel good, and do good. We teach them about respect. We teach them about giving back and not looking to receive. We teach them how to tie a tie. Teach them table etiquette. Teach them how to respect women, open doors, say please and thank you, write thank you notes, and just be overall a really good person. It's a 8-month curriculum where you basically, if you would sponsor a school, you could go in as the guest lecturer, right, or guest speaker, and once a month for 30 minutes, you go in and give a course that's already pre-done. And everybody at the school is extremely appreciative of you. You're doing a huge service. There's another one called Girls with Pearls, and it's a girl version of that. And the girls' slogan is treasured, valued, and empowered. And it's a lot of it's a lot of the same concepts, and teaching these young ladies that anything is possible, teaching them to stand up for themselves, teaching them about respect. And it's they have a pearl that they wear every time to the day, and a pink shirt that says treasured, empowered, and valued. So those are the 2 programs. People basically could donate and sponsor a school for that. The last one is the motivational concerts, and we're looking to give out a scholarship for dentistry, a scholarship in the world of business, entrepreneurship, and then a new car each time. And so there's various sponsorship packages that we're allowed to have with that, and then you can also come to the school if you sponsor. You can come to the school and witness the concert firsthand, which is absolutely amazing.
So if someone likes this,
Mm-hmm.
or they intend one of these events, and they say, I'd like to do something like that closer to home, how can they partner with you to get that done?
So right now we're booked till for about 1.5 years out. However, we're open to discussing other schools, other cities. Getting in touch with the superintendent is the first thing. The superintendent is who needs to get on board, because they get the other superintendents on board and actually allow for 7 to 10 high schools to come out. So the first step is contacting your superintendent, saying, here's the program, here's the website, here's one that was done prior, and seeing if they can get on board. After we see if they can get on board, then we can really talk logistics.
I love it. Okay, now we're going to switch gears here a little bit. One of your most recent endeavors is the Backstage Mastermind. And I want you to talk a little bit about why you created it and what gap did you see that in entrepreneurs that no one else was addressing?
Absolutely. First off, this is my first podcast ever talking about it.
I did ask permission.
I only have 2 businesses left, not 14, and this is one.
Right.
But this is the first time I've ever told anybody about it on a public platform. So the Backstage Mastermind, we have 44 dental entrepreneurs. And if they have a dental practice, this is not for them. But if they have a business that serves a dental practice, that is for them. And it was created because I felt like there was so much support out there specifically for dentists from coaches. There's like 500 to 800 dental consultants. There's dental masterminds that exist to support the dentist. However, there wasn't a group that was out there that could support the dental entrepreneur that serves the dentist. And ultimately, all of us want to serve and do the best job that we possibly can. And as a dental entrepreneur, and if you put everybody in the same room, that all they want to do is just provide the best value possible for their dental practice, magic happens. It's like putting multiple minds together and creating this mastermind, if you would. So my brain, I use different parts of it. I'm better at some things than others, and others are better than me at some things. But my brain by itself is one brain. If we put me and you in one room, took out a piece of paper, we could create magic. And that's more magic than you can create yourself, or I could create myself. Now, you do the same thing with 6, 8 people, 10 people. The things that you can accomplish are literally earth-shattering. And so the mastermind was created to give entrepreneurs that serve dental practices, give them a place, since it's really a lonely island as an entrepreneur. And so I basically got people together that shared my core values. The first core value is kind. We have absolutely no jerks in Backstage. The second core value, besides being kind, is an abundance mindset. That's that blue ocean mentality that we spoke about. We believe 1 + 1 = 11, not 1 - 1 = 0. We believe iron sharpens iron, and there's a blue ocean. The last one is fun. We talked earlier about, some people think that being a dental professional, they just take it too far and you can't have fun. And by the way, fun doesn't necessarily mean drinking. Fun means laughing, dancing, singing, traveling the world with our friends while we're growing our business. And so I created this safe space of trusted entrepreneurs that ultimately are going to be serving dentistry. And so actually November 1st, we are opening up the website, and it's called the Backstage Pass. And it's one place that dentistry at large can go to find trusted founders. These are really good people with high integrity and anything you can think of to grow your practice, whether it's a merchant service, a lab, if it is a product, a service, a type of consultant, a staffing agency. Everything you could ever have for your dental practice is located on the Backstage Pass. And this is the first time after 4 years that I'm telling anybody about it in a public setting.
Yeah, I appreciate your letting the cat out of the bag, so to speak, on the show. What about dentists who are dental practice owners or even just associates, and they have an idea and they want to pursue that idea, or they've begun pursuing the idea and they just need help? Are they welcome to join?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not as open, can they join? So they can join if they have something new that doesn't have to be extremely established. But what's extremely important is that they share those core values. So we have an entire application process, and it is thorough. And all of the leaders of Backstage go through the application. So they have to go through an interview. And after they do the interview is with me. And they tell me what they are doing. I listen to them and say, okay, does this make sense or not? Now, mind you, when we're talking about back in 2020, starting Dental Tank, I had 100 companies at a time pitching me their business, and I would have to pick 25 of them to pitch. So I have constantly companies that I'm talking to, and I won't allow them to join unless I know that we can help them. But more than anything, I need to understand who they are as a person and know their core values. I'll tell you that most dental companies, they want to do the best thing for you. So even if their product, service, or software, maybe if it fails or it's not the best sometimes, they actually want it to be the best. But if you can imagine all these different dental companies coming together to have the best product, to have the best service, and then to serve. So this place that we're creating is a place that you can find everything you need for your dental practice with good people, the founders behind them.
And I'm going to go ahead and let Mike out of the bag here, if that's cool.
Yes.
So I'm actually a member of Backstage. I don't have a business that I want help with, but there's literally nothing in the world that I find more fulfilling than helping other people to achieve their dreams. I have no financial interest in it. I just give up my time to help out. And I was worried whenever Elijah first approached me with it, because I am, gosh, what would you describe me as? I said I'm an asshole, and Elijah says, "You're not an asshole."
Yeah, no, you're a giver, and so that's what you do. And
I am blunt.
You're still not a jerk. You still have the core values that we all have of kindness. And even though that you had a successful exit, you still are an entrepreneur. The thing that you have is you have something that not a lot of people have, and it's not a requirement to be in Backstage, but you have this giving part of you that's you don't ask for help. You just give, and it makes you tick. Giving to others, serving others, helping others. And unfortunately, somebody like you could get the help, but you don't ever ask for it. And
This is him nagging me, by the way, in case anyone didn't understand that. Oh God, that's always one of the parts of our conversation. Whenever, Chris, what can I do for you?
Yeah,
nothing. Well, but at least you know me well enough now to know that's who I am. And if I ever need it, I do promise.
Yeah,
I will ask.
Absolutely,
maybe. So, what is the raw truth about masterminds? Who should not be in one?
Somebody who doesn't like to share, or like they have a. If you have this idea of you have to keep everything to your chest, close to your chest, probably not a fit for you. Somebody else that should not be in one is somebody that has zero time or doesn't take advice well. So if you're the person that just knows it all already, a mastermind is probably not for you. If you're somebody that's not open to getting vulnerable, a mastermind is probably not for you, right? If you don't need help, you already have your solid group of friends, your community, and you don't need help. You're already at the point where you want to be. That mastermind probably wouldn't be for you. It's not for everybody. And by the way, there are masterminds that exist that are just for dentists. And I want to make a clear difference between the two. So there's coaching, and then there's a mastermind. A coaching is where you get advice and people coach you through. It's one person. It's one person's set of skills and mind. A mastermind is where you get into a room with a lot of other like-minded individuals, and everybody shares their perspective. There's a German philosophy is called Gestalt, and we use Gestalt. And essentially, if I believe
we said Gestalt twice in the same day.
if there was a way to explain Gestalt to me, it would be that when you're in a setting, you don't tell somebody what they should do. You should do this, or you should do this, or I think this. Gestalt, you simply share experiences. In my experience, this is what I did in a similar journey to you. This was the journey, and this was the solution. It worked or it didn't. And you really take the emotion out and just talk about the story, talk about the experience, and tell a story. Not you should do this or you should do that. We try to come from Gestalt in that philosophy, because if you have 6 or 7 people telling you a story that's very relevant to a problem you're going through, you can actually pick apart the pieces of that story and frame your own solution. So that's the difference between coaching and masterminding. So you put everybody's ideas together in one room, magic happens. I'm also going to tell you that being a dental entrepreneur can be a lonely road. It can be lonely. You don't have people to talk to about things, whether they're personal, family, business. And so you're stuck on this lonely island, not able to tell anybody, not able to talk to people about it. So when you get put in a room surrounded around people that are like-minded, and you're able to be vulnerable, you're able to shed a tear or 2 or 5, and that's okay. You're able to tell people the huge wins and successes as well, so that way other people can benefit, it's the best room to be in. And that's what we created. But I'll tell you, more than anything, we created a community of entrepreneurs that are good people.
I'd agree. So you've built communities where people feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
From your Gestalt experience, right? So from your experience, what is it that makes a true leader in that space?
I would say a true leader leads with giving. A true leader sets an example through vulnerability. A true leader listens. They don't just tell. And a true leader's actions speak louder than their words. There's a lot of people that say a lot of things, but the people that really are true leaders and they're great leaders, they're making an impact and they don't even have to say anything. They just do.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So we're going to jump into one final set of questions. And this is, again, one of those areas where I'm going to be like, oh, he's a DJ. Oh, he's a hygienist. So we're going to do that real quick. I have about 3 more segments, but we're going to cut this one short because I know I need to respect your time. And again, like I said, Kat may hurt me. So let's talk about practice sales and the brokerage that you're affiliated with. What made you step into the brokerage space? And I mean, most hygienists never go there.
Right. Well, first off, I've started about 20 businesses myself. I've successfully exited 7, and I've successfully failed at 7. I know what it's like to go through.
I love that juxtaposition. That was beautiful.
I love, business in general, but I've actually been through sales of businesses, some more than others. So that's number 1. Number 2, in the past world, I was a consultant, right? So I used to coach dental practices. So I understand coaching of dental practices. And oh, by the way, I understand the science because I am a dental hygienist with a bachelor's of science that went to school for 6 years. And so I, number 1, felt qualified to do so, right? The second thing is that I had this amazing fun business called Dental Tank. And that's the business in which I would have all these companies pitch their business, and then I would find them an investor. And our model was, if we raised them the money, which was $300,000 to $3 million, we would then take ownership of 5% of their business, of the person that was looking. So I said to my business partner, Matt Ornstein, I said, man, we actually, I think we're at the wrong end of this. We should actually sell businesses in the same format. These are already successful businesses, and I think we should start with dental practices. And so Dental Pitch was formed. And Dental Pitch is an event that you could come to, and there's 10 buyers. Everybody has an NDA, but there's 10 buyers, and you come in the room, and when you come in the room, you get interviewed from myself or my business partner about practicing as a dentist. What got you into dentistry? You want to sell. How long are you willing to stay for? What type of marketing are you doing? And then the buyers would ask them questions about their practice, non-financial questions. And then after that was over, we would then allow the buyers to write down who they wanted to meet with for one-on-one meetings at the event. So people could have up to 10 potential buyers at one event and essentially speed the process up. Okay. And now some people are like, I don't want to go to an event. That's okay. We have 73 strong buyers. I'll call them sophisticated buyers. They are DSOs. They're small, large, mid-size. They have private equity, emerging groups. And then we also have hundreds of private practice dentists that are looking to buy a practice. So when we get a listing, we will have somebody apply. We cannot serve everybody and sell their practice. Right? We have certain requirements, but what we can do is help and serve everybody. A lot of dentists think that when it's time to sell, they should call a sell-side broker. That's us. That's not the time to call, is when you want to retire. The time to call is actually 2, 3, even 5 years prior to selling their practice. And yes, that was you who retired and left, right? But ultimately, the time to sell or prepare to sell is 5 years out. Could be 2 years, but call now. That mastermind of dental entrepreneurs, they all are vetted. They're all good people. And essentially, if you're thinking about selling, you should have an optimized net profit or an optimized EBITDA. It should be as high as possible. And I have all the solutions. So instead of saying, oh, you're too small to work with, right? Or, oh, it wouldn't be a good working relationship. I can go and connect you with all of the right people to prepare your practice to sell. And the people I'm connecting you to is the people in the mastermind.
So to correct one misconception there, in case anybody out there thinks I just decided one day to up and sell, I think he was poking me because he knows the story. I actually built my practice to sell. From the first day that I opened, actually from 2 years before I opened the doors, I planned to sell my practice, and I labeled the practice something that wasn't my personal name. I picked a location that I knew would sell well to other people because of visibility and anchor stores. I went into it as a business, which is why I did well. I also sold, I think, at the top of the market because we were getting between 12 and 15x on a good EBITDA.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You did sell at the best time.
Right.
12 or 15x now does not exist unless you have a practice that has, let's just say, 75 or 150 locations. So now, and it's never going to go to 12 or 15x. Now, it's just being realistic. EBITDA, let's just say if it's a $2 million practice, and the EBITDA is, I'm gonna call it 500 or 600. And for those of you who don't know what EBITDA is, just imagine net profits plus add backs, right? If you did a trip, if you bought a cone beam, if you had a one-time expense, if you hired a consultant, that's an add back.
All the shit that you run through your business, you damn well know it's not a business expense, but you do it anyway. That's an add back.
That's an add back. So adjusted EBITDA is essentially your net profit plus your add backs. Well, you can multiply that number. If you're selling to a private practice dentist and you have numbers like that, you're going to get around, I'm going to call it a 4 times multiple. Or you can get 60 to maybe 110% of collections. Okay. If you have a bigger practice, it's going to be hard to sell to a private practice dentist. So what's a bigger practice? $2 million, $3 million, $4 million or more. It's going to be hard for a private practice dentist to go get a loan for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
and most of the ones who are purchasing it right out of school, it's going to be hard for them to meet that load.
Exactly. So if you're selling to a group, if you have the same exact number, say $2 million in collections and call it $500,000-$600,000 EBITDA, you're going to get somewhere around a 5 times multiple, maximum of a 6 times multiple. Now, if you have a higher EBITDA, let's just say if you have a $3 million EBITDA and you have 4 locations or one super location and it's $3 million in EBITDA, well, you're probably going to get somewhere around a 7 to an 8 plus. And I say 8 plus because it could be a little bit more, but those are the numbers that are realistic now.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me here because I've been out of the game for a while now. I sold February 19th of 2020.
Right before it happened.
Yep.
Wow. What a perfect timing.
Well, remember I told you I thought we were going to have a recession, like a big recession, because I read that white paper in Wall Street Journal about negative interest rates in the United States. And I ran all the numbers of unemployment, stock market, what the prime was. And the only time I ever saw them actually meet up the way they were was 1928, 29. And so I shot a brick and I said, I've got to find a way to sell my practice. I've already been building it to sell, but now's the time. So I started shopping DSOs and I didn't even take the highest offer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So a lot of people think it's about the highest offer. It's actually about the best terms. The terms are more important than the offer. So what are terms? People are like, oh, well, what are the terms? Okay. What percentage of the office of your sale are you getting on the sale? That's a term. How long do you have to stay with the practice? That's a term. What does your earnout look like? Do you have to maintain collections or maintain the EBITDA of the practice? And is your earnout for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Here's also terms. This is very important because one of my friends accidentally did this that wasn't working with us. They signed a LOI. The LOI stated if they did not move forward with them as the buyer, or they in any way, shape, or form misrepresenting the numbers, that they would be subject to a $50,000 penalty.
That's ouch.
Yeah, that's why you work with a broker. And a broker is the expert at reading these LOIs that you will sign that are legal contracts. And so it's super important to understand what to look for and what to not. But what's most important to understand is there's so many different types of buyers out there. Some terms are better than other terms. Some people will pay you more, but the terms suck. Some people will pay you less, but the terms are great. And the culture and the environment is great to work in, which is super important.
And I sold to what I believe is the best DPO, they like to say DSO out there, which is MB2. And they're fantastic. If any of you guys want an introduction, let me know. Hit me up on Facebook, email me, whatever. I'd be glad to introduce you. But so I liked the culture. I went in and I pretended to be interviewing them all for a podcast. I really was. Mm-hmm. But in reality, since I was interviewing all the people in the office about the office, I found that the happiest people were at MB2. Like and the one thing that stood up in my mind, because you know me well, you know how important this was to me. Everyone said, if Dr. V says something, he always keeps his word. Like literally almost those exact same words, every single one of them. I was like, wow. So I didn't get the highest offer from them that I did from anyone. But I was able to negotiate the terms I wanted, which was a 70% buyout day one. So you know how unusual that is.
Yeah.
I got exactly what I wanted. I think they got what they wanted. Unfortunately, the lady who took over my practice, I gave away that first practice because I was just done. I had some things going on that you know about. And I didn't feel like I should be seeing patients. And if someone else was in my practice earning all the money, I shouldn't be taking any of it. And so I gave her the remaining 30% of that practice. I still own one. But I regret that she did not follow my advice. She actually told me I was mansplaining. I'm like, I built this thing and I'm trying to tell you how, and you're not listening. So if you're out there, sorry. So what do dentists get completely wrong about selling their practice?
Oh, man. The first thing is...
You had the exact opposite reaction to whenever I talked to you about the IV bags and stuff. Like whenever you perked up, and this was the opposite facial expression.
Yes. The most wrong about selling their practices is thinking that they're able to just leave. So basically saying, okay, I'm ready to retire. I'm going to find a buyer and leave. That is, can it happen? Yes. Is it possible? Yes.
It's not even optimal though.
But is it optimal or it's very, very difficult. So that's the number one, misconception or thing is waiting until the last minute to sell. And I would say the second thing that's not realistic is that everything is going to stay the same. So you have to understand that there will be things that change and not everything is going to stay the same. However, depending on the group that you sold to, if you sold to a group, there could be some things that remain similar. Some people don't even change the practice at all. A lot of people offer a lot of support. Some people offer leadership and training and CE. There's so many different options. So we have 73 total buyers currently and growing. And these are the bigger buyers, the groups and private equity, et cetera. Those buyers, I can tell you that there's not one that is the same. And I also co-sign on what you said and say that MB2 is a great DSO. MB2 is one of our 73, and I would consider them a top 5 to 10, right? I believe in what they do. I believe in their model. I know so many. I haven't met one dentist that's been unhappy with MB2. So I believe that they're good. And I also can tell you there's many other ones that are good. I will also tell you there are many other ones that are bad.
Yeah, some of them are like letting your baby be adopted by a serial killer who you're relatively certain is going to chop off the arms and legs and sell them out individually.
Yes, there are absolutely ones that are ones that are bad. And would I ever announce those names out loud? No. In a conversation where you're considering selling to one, would I tell you I wouldn't agree with that? And here's why. Yes. I'm not in the business of bad mouthing people and also a group, right? I'm not in the business of bad mouthing DSOs in general. Not all DSOs are bad. Not all are good. Same thing with private practice dentists. Not all of them are bad. Not all of them are good. So you have to be smart with who you sell to and be very realistic with your sale.
So have you ever had to talk someone out of selling because they were not emotionally ready?
Emotionally ready? No, I've not had to talk somebody out of selling, but I think that I don't think I know that I have worked with some dentists who go into it wanting to sell and have an emotional spiral backwards and decide not to sell, right? I'm not ready. What if? What's going to happen? The fear of selling and ending up at the wrong group. The dentist that also gets to the end and says, "Oh my goodness, I'm only going to be getting this certain amount." And I talked to my wealth advisor. My wealth advisor told me that I actually needed to have, $350,000 to live on, and with me selling this practice, I'm just not going to have enough money. So they've changed their mind. So I think it's important to talk to a wealth advisor in advance and know your number. If you know your number, you can work backwards and you can get your number, but you have to have a plan. And so let's just say you're thinking about selling in 5 years. Well, let's have a conversation. Conversations are free. And once we have that conversation, in that conversation is going to be, do you know your number? How much do you need?
You know that's my favorite question. You're just taunting me.
How much do you need, or what's your wealth gap? You may have a wealth gap, and that wealth gap essentially means this is how much you're making now. This is what you're going to sell for. This is how much you need to live. And if you know your number, we can decide really quick, does it make sense for you to sell or not? And if it doesn't, if you need to close that gap a little bit and increase your EBITDA, what you're going to do is you're going to talk to me and have a conversation and say, who are all the people I should talk to grow my EBITDA? So a lot of people don't understand that. And I say the second biggest thing with the dental practice that's a misconception is if you're going to sell, you should grow your collections. You should ramp up for the next year. I cannot explain how big of a mistake that is. Because here's the thing. If you're ramping up your collection, you're going to need to stay at that pace for the next 2 to 5 years. You're going to need to stay at that pace. So you need to work just as hard. What makes way more sense is if you can add money straight to your bottom line by doing things like looking at your labs. Okay. Let's make an example. Let's say a crown is $400. Okay. Or $300. Well, do you know that there's actually a crown out there that exists that's pretty much just the same, but it's way less. It's actually $60. Okay. So that's a $240, call it a $250 change or shift. I'm going to bring that number down further. $200 per crown. Let's just say you do 30 crowns in a month, okay? 30 times 250 or 200 is $6,000. $6,000 a month in savings. 6,000 times 12 is $72,000. And oh, by the way, you're getting a 5 times multiple. So just from changing labs, just one thing, changing labs, you get to basically grow your practice and now sell that practice. 70 times 5 is $350,000. $350,000 more that you added straight to your bottom line, or added from your value. I should say you added $72,000 to your bottom line, and the value is now $350,000 more that you can get to retire with. That's one thing. Your merchant services, that's another thing. You know now that you don't have to absorb those merchant fees. It's legal to put them onto your customer. And people are like, oh my God,
Up to 3%.
up to 3%. Oh my God, they're going to panic. The patient's going to, first off, you should be raising your fees regularly anyways to keep up the time. Okay. Now that up to 3% for most $1 million practices is somewhere around $30,000 to $40,000. Let's call it $30,000. So you changed one thing. Now that's $30,000 times 5 is 150. Whoever's listening to this podcast, please send me a check. I just made you $500,000. But there's so many things like that, right? So many. That was 150. First thing was 350. That's $500,000. So it makes way more sense to focus on that than it does to focus on hurrying up and increasing your collection. You have to be smart with your money. Be frugal. Because I'm going to tell you what, the group that buys you, they already have all of that down to a science. They already have the great pricing. They already have the good business model. They have the margins that are probably better than yours because you haven't focused on them.
I think most dentists focus on the wrong things. Number of patients times the average transaction fee or average value of each visit times your percent collections and minus your overhead is your net profitability. Mm-hmm. And each one of those can be a lever depending upon where you are in the percentage so far as ideal percentages go. But there's an asymptotic relationship between the amount of difference effort will make and the closer you are to ideal. And so if something's 1% from ideal and something's 5% from ideal, leave that freaking lever alone, jump over to the 10% and throw it. And that might be your collections percentage, or it might be your average transaction rate, or it might be the number of patients you see. It doesn't matter. Whatever that biggest lever is what's going to make the most amount of change, 80-20 rule, right? For the least amount of effort. And then once you're done with that, then you start fine-tuning, turning dials, and creep those numbers up until you get as close to the razor's edge of perfect as you can. But if you spend all of your time trying to get to the razor's edge on your overhead, but you're ignoring your new patient numbers, you're ignoring your production numbers whenever it comes to production per visit, or you're ignoring your collections and you're leaving, let's say, I've seen a lot of dental practices, and it's getting better, but whenever I was practicing, 85 to 90% wasn't an uncommon number. I know you're smiling because you still see them. I don't have to see those. They horrify me. But we were collecting 105 to 110% because I made people pay before they did treatment, like any Walmart does before you leave with groceries, right? People said it couldn't be done. I did it. Mm-hmm. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, I love the cash conversation in general. I mean, all this is math,
right?
And this is business. It's math, okay? So I would like to talk about the AR for just a second.
Please.
But just prior to talking about that, I want to talk about
it is
another
506.
Awesome. I now want to talk about the cash. So in dentistry, oftentimes there is cash that is used. I'm going to call it in a $1 million practice or $1.1 to $1.5 million to say $100,000 of cash. Okay. Don't feel that bad. You're not the only one you're not telling the IRS that you made that $100,000. You're keeping the cash. It happens. But let me go ahead and explain how bad that is. First off, if you would have just reported the cash, okay, you would have been, if you had $100,000, you may have owed the IRS between $20,000 and $35,000. Okay. But here's what happens. You tried to save I'll call it $20,000 to $40,000. You tried to save that. Well, guess what? $100,000 goes straight to the bottom line. 100,000 times 5 is $500,000. So just know that if you're not claiming it, that is not the right thing to do. Make sure that you claim it, because you saving $20,000, $30,000 is not worth you missing out on $500,000. That's my first cash gem that I'm going to give everybody. The next one is your accounts receivable. Work with a company to clean up your AR or get your AR cleaned up prior to the sale. Let me go ahead and tell you why. Let's just say that your sale is $2 million, okay? With that $2 million, there's going to be some accounts receivable that you're going to get paid for. So let's just say if it was 90 days old, and you had a total of $100,000 of accounts receivable out, you're going to get, let's just call it $40,000 or $50,000. So your deal is now $2,050,000. Okay, so you get they buy a percent of that outstanding AR. All right. Now, if you would have collected that prior to the sale, that same $50,000 that you collected, it would be 50 times like a 5 times multiple. So that's $250,000 instead of $50,000 that they're going to give you, which is a part of what you have that's outstanding. So I think that if you're going to go and sell, there's all of these levers, there's all of these things that are so important that you need to know. Just pick up the phone and call, say, I want to get prepared. I don't want to sell today, and that's okay. We want to prepare you for the sale. And that's what we do differently. Instead of saying, oh, you're not ready, I'll talk to you, call me when you are. Or, sorry, you're too small for us. Nope, we don't do that.
Yeah,
we help.
That's a fantastic service.
We help everybody for free.
Real quick thing I did. So I'm going to be vulnerable here and tell you where I screwed up on my sale. Okay, the average cost of a Starbucks coffee is between $3.75 and $6.25.
Yep.
So let's go with $5.
Yes.
I had 12 employees. Every day I bought them coffee. $5 times $12 is $60. We worked 4 days a week times 4 equals. We took 2 weeks off, so times 50 equals. That's $12,000 right there in a year. We're not going to say exactly what my multiple is for legal reasons. But the average today, you said people are getting what?
I would call it at 5 or 6.
Okay, let's call it a 5 because let's say they didn't have great overhead control.
Yep.
All right, that was $60,000 more I would have in that situation. It was a lot freaking more than that. In fact, actually, Dr. V sat me down and he said, I want to show you something going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that math for me. And then when it hit the multiple, that's how much it cost me.
Oh my gosh.
And that made me sit up and listen. So, guys, this is great advice. And I hope you stick around long enough to hear it, because if you didn't, you really missed out. So I've got 2 more questions, and then we have to get you running because otherwise you're never going to make it to the airport. In fact, you should probably text Uber right now.
Okay.
So you have reinvented yourself again and again. What is the next evolution of Elijah Desmond? And is this his final form?
This is final for me. I have the ability to create anything. And that's why I created so many businesses. This is it for me. I will continue to serve practices, selling practices for at least another 4 or 5 years. I'll continue my mastermind as well, running it for the next 3 or 4 years. And I will then, I'll end up selling after, eventually. That doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily stop working in the businesses, but I'm going to sell eventually. And I will focus on motivational concerts and then leading the teams that I started. But I'm not starting any other businesses.
So does that mean your power is finally over 9,000?
That my power is over 9,000? What is that? What do you mean?
I thought you caught the first reference.
I did.
It was a reference to Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, I've
My
never.
kids like what? Okay, guys, I really hope that you've enjoyed this interview. And if you have any questions that we didn't cover here, either drop them down below or reach out to Elijah in person. Elijah, what the hell was that? Reach out to Elijah in person, and you can ask him. As always, thank you for joining, and please give the podcast a like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. And Elijah, thank you so much for coming and sharing some of your journey with us. And I hope this was as fun for you as it was for me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Guys, until next time, this is Doc. I'm out.
And watch me educate. Yeah, we been could've started, but it's never late. Do it for my kids, yeah, let's set it straight. Do it for your kids, gotta set it straight. It's time to regulate. We need change now.